Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stogie video review. Well, I took a week off last week to get caught up on everything and take a little break after beating and battering my palate at Cigar Fest and numerous other events. I am back and I am just ready to get going. And the cigar that was supposed to be reviewed last week, which I'm actually reviewing this week, is the Pacific Cigar Company Robusto. Now, I've actually been doing a little bit of research on this cigar because it's very intriguing. And the reason I came to find out about this cigar was I was down at Top Shelf Cigars in Skip Pack a couple of months ago to pick up some of the Top Shelf Signature Selects, which Jim Cronin makes. It's his house brand. And while I was down there, the new rep for the area for Pacific Cigar Companies came in. I was very new to the industry. I actually forget his name, and I forget what he said he did previous to selling cigars. But his story, it seemed like he was fresh into the business. He knew very little about cigars, and he was very eager to learn. But he brought enough samples to give Jim, the shop owner, and he told me he would send me some samples, just give him some information, and I did. A couple of weeks later, I got some cigars in the mail. I have the Robusto, I have a Churchill, and I think I have a double Corona of some sorts. This is the smallest, which is why I'm starting with it. Now, the interesting thing about this cigar, and I don't know whether you can notice it from this far away or not, is it's in a tube, but it's not just any tube. It is plastic, and from what I understand, it's sort of like recycled Coke bottles. And the cigar is like sealed in here. I mean, for good, more or less. I mean, you can pop the seal and get it out, but from what I'm reading, the whole idea behind this tube was quote-unquote as fresh as the day it was rolled technology. And the idea is that someone can buy this cigar today and in 5 years pop the tube open after leaving it sit on their kitchen counter and be able to smoke a cigar that is perfect as far as the humidity and whatnot goes. But I am extremely skeptical about this, and the reason being is that cigars come in cellophane for a reason. It breathes. It's permeable. Plastic is not. So I don't know. I'm interested to find out what the cigar tastes like, and at the same time, I know that it's in a tomb, so to speak. So if there's any off-gassing of the cigar, if it wasn't fermented long enough or aged long enough before being tubed, I know I'm going to get all that stuff, and it's going to be perfectly preserved in this tube. But at any rate, some more interesting information. In addition to the tube, is that I'm reading that it is actually vacuum sealed. And that seems kind of odd too. And the reason I find that odd is just because, well, if it's... Let me see how I should phrase this. If I pop this cap off, I should hear air rush inside this thing. It's vacuum sealed, there's no pressure inside, so when I open the lid I should hear the air kind of whoosh inside. And if I don't, that means there's still air in here. Now, if there's still air in here, what happens to this cigar when it gets too cold? What I mean by too cold is, let's say I toss this in my car, and it's during the winter and it gets down to 20 degrees. Now, when this cigar was tubed, it was, let's just say, 70 degrees, 70% relative humidity. Now, it gets down in the car, down to 20 degrees. Now, the air temperature inside this tube can't sustain that humidity. So, I should start to see condensation all inside this tube. Now, if it's like really tight and vacuum packed, there should be no air in there, but I'm not quite sure how the whole humidity thing will work. In any case, I should hear it pop when I pull this thing, but for some reason I don't think I will. And I just did a quick Google search, and I happened to find this cigar meetup thing in Chicago, and there's a quote from what appears to be the sales rep saying that the Pacific Cigar Company makes all of Ditka's cigars and has a line of their own. Each one is vacuum sealed in plastic tubes and guaranteed fresh for a minimum of 5 years, no humidor required. So that's where I'm getting the vacuum sealed and all that other good stuff from. Now, I know I'm droning on and on and on, But some more information on the cigar itself is the company that makes this cigar, this Pacific Cigar Company, is based out of Lamont, Illinois. And they also have a presence in the Philippines and the Dominican Republic. Now, I think the Lamont factory or facility is more or less their office, their storefront, warehouse and whatnot. In the Dominican Republic, the cigars are rolled differently than they are in the Philippines. In the Philippines, they're using Isabella filler and binder and a different variety of binder and filler. And in the Dominican Republic, they're using this San Victor, Cabal Valley, Dominican Republic, or the San Victor region in the Cabal Valley of the Dominican Republic. That's where the filler and binder comes from. So, depending on which place you purchase the cigar from, you're going to get a different cigar, which is kind of confusing. And if you head over to the order page on pacificcigar.com or pacific-cigar.com, there is a way to order all this stuff direct from the factory, it seems. And when you order individual cigars, you identify what quantity of the size you want. You pick your blend, being Far East, the Philippines, or Caribbean, being the Dominican Republic. And then you pick your label, it seems, which is Pacific, Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marines. Now, I'm not quite sure what all that is about. I didn't get that far into it. And it's just, I don't know, this is very, very confusing. Now, the reason why this is very confusing is because these cigars aren't geared towards cigar shops, from what I understand, or what I'm seeing. They are geared towards country clubs. And I just happened to look on Where Are Our Cigars on the website. And in the Pennsylvania area, it's Allegheny Country Club, Blue Ridge Country Club, Brooksville Country Club and Resort of Hershey, Oakview Golf Club, Punxsutawney Country Club, the Inn at the Union League, and Tofter's Resort and Golf Club. So it seems that this cigar is made and packaged this way so that they can be sold to cigar shop or to country clubs, or be picked up on consignment, because that's also available. And these can basically sit on the shelves for up to 5 years and be completely preserved. So it is much different than every cigar I've ever smoked at this point, which was geared towards sitting in the cigar shop or being sold online. But ultimately, it was not meant to be on consignment, and it was not meant to sit around forever. So it ought to be interesting. But at any rate, I know, I'm rambling, but I'm going to get started, and I'm going to listen for that whoosh and see what happens. Yeah, I heard it. That was there's a gasket that seals the plastic tube. I definitely heard the air rush inside. It smells like a cigar, and it feels pretty good too. Wow, the walls on this plastic tube are very, very thick. So it probably was under a fair amount of pressure, and there just wasn't any collapsing because of how thick the plastic was. But anyway, again, if this cigar was under fermented or whatnot, it's going to be encapsulated in that ammonia. So we'll see how it goes. Now there is a gasket inside the tube, and it locks pretty tight. There's actually some information on the back of the tube, but I'm not going to read it for you. I'm just going to cut and light the cigar because I'm pretty sure you're tired of hearing me talking about it now. Oh, also, when I was researching this cigar, I found that if you don't like this cigar for whatever reason, put it back in the tube that it came in and ship it back to Pacific Cigar Company. In which point they will send you a refund. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I don't know too many places that do that. But the pre-light draw is pretty loose for the most part. I'm not getting hit in the face with ammonia or anything like that. So far, so good. As far as it feels a little soft, a couple of soft spots here and there, a little lumpy, actually a couple of pretty hard spots, but not terrible. The pre-light draw is decent. Smells like a cigar, which I was concerned about. But you know, it's ready to go. So I'm gonna start toasting and lighting my cigar, and I'm gonna try to breeze through the rest of this video so that you're not bored out of your mind. But in any case, sit tight. I'll be right back, and we'll get things started. Well, welcome back, folks. I am plugging right along with my Pacific cigar company, Robusto, and I gotta tell you, I don't know. It's just this cigar is very strange, and what I mean by that is, you know, if you take a look at some of these pictures, across the ash I had like a light brown streak, you know, across the foot, which was kind of odd. The ash in itself was fairly light in color. It was a bit firm. It was the first time I knocked the ash off, but it had you could physically see, you could actually see spots in the ash where the wrapper had pulled away from the binder, and you could actually see it pulled away, and you could see the lines in the binder and whatnot, which was, I don't know, that's kind of strange. But the strangest thing about the cigar is I can actually hear the tobacco burning at points. For instance, I used to go to this private club down in the Royersford area of Pennsylvania, and I would go in every Friday. I'd stop in after work and have a beer. But all the cigar smokers used to congregate towards the one end of the bar. And there were a couple of us that smoked, you know, the handmade cigars and whatnot. And then there was one guy that smoked Ashtons at home, but he was a delivery driver. So throughout the day, he would smoke Dutch Masters. You know, get in and out of the truck, whatnot. Cigar goes out, who cares? Relight it. It's all the same at that point. And he would come in and he'd grab a couple of Dutch Masters. He would wait to smoke the Ashtons until after he got home to relax. And you know, when he lit up the cigar and he starts puffing on it, for whatever reason, those dry-cured cigars, you could hear them burning. Like, you know, you could hear the air rush through the cigar, and you can hear the tobacco actually burn. And that's exactly the sound that I'm getting out of this cigar. Now, it's not constant, but it comes and goes, and I don't know. I don't know whether the tobacco is dry, which it doesn't feel dry. I mean, it tastes a little dry, but it doesn't feel dry. You know, it feels like it was humidified as it should, or the cigar is dry cured, in which case it would certainly last in that tube for 5 years. I mean, you don't need to maintain it with humidity, but I don't know. There's just a lot of just these strange things that are going on that are really throwing me for a loop. Now, the burn line is, well, it's a little uneven now that I knocked the ash off, but at one point in time it was very thick and it was blistering. And I had to touch it up at one point. There was just a small spot that I needed to relight, and as soon as I got even close to the wrapper with the flame, it just scorched it and turned black and whatnot. And so I don't know what's up with this cigar. Whether it's just really dry and it doesn't feel it, or it's a dry cured cigar. I really couldn't tell you. These are said to be premium hand rolled cigars. I guess that doesn't mean that they couldn't be premium long filler dry cured or something. I don't know. It just seems very strange. When I lit the cigar, it was very harsh the first couple of puffs. I mean, it's just really harsh. That settled out after a couple of puffs. The harshness is still there, it's significantly better at this point. And the flavor is it's sort of mildly sweet, sort of like the Flor de Oliva Naturals with the sweetened cap. This is more of a sweetness on the tip of the tongue and lips, more so than anything else. And the aftertaste of the cigar is just it's a nutty flavor. The body is mild to medium, and you know, as I mentioned, all the other stuff that's going on with it. But you know, it's not bad. I mean, I didn't mention the fact that these cigars are $7.75 at the beginning of the video, but they are. Again, they're geared towards country clubs, and so you're going to pay a premium for them. And I guess you're going to pay even more if these places take them on consignment, because you know I guess there's risk associated with that. So at any rate, the cigar is smoking okay. I mean, it's definitely throwing me for a loop. I feel kind of strange smoking a cigar, like, you know, like something's up with it, but I don't know. I also wanted to mention that I'm smoking this. It's about 8:30 now, and I'm drinking coffee with a cigar. And I wanted to thank Big Jake for picking me up some more Stumptown coffee and sending it to me. And he tells me that they changed the bags, which is very interesting. Before, it didn't tell you what was in the bag. At this time, it's Sumatra Lake Tower from Indonesia. It's got this card that slips in the bag, pretty neat. And he gave me some information along with it about the company, which appears to do some very nice things for you know, for the unfortunate or underprivileged. So it's a pretty interesting company. If you're familiar with Stumptown Coffee, you can look it up there, or you know already. But if you're not, check out, just Google Stumptown and take a look at the company. They're in Portland, I believe. I think they actually have a few locations. Brian Hewitt's familiar with some of them, and you know, the coffee is very good. So it's a little pricey, but then again, you're helping the company help others. So it's worthwhile expense. But at any rate, thanks again, Jake. I am going to take a quick break, show you a couple more pictures, smoke a little bit further into my Pacific Cigar Company Robusto, and be right back to get started on second third. Welcome back. I am plugging right along. It's been about an hour, and I'm pretty far into the second third of my Pacific Cigar Company Robusto. And I don't know, I still feel kind of strange about this cigar, like there's something going on that I can't find. I've done a little bit more research on the web, and as well as read the tube, and I don't know, it just seems like there's a process in there that's not traditional. And I'm not quite sure how to explain it, or whether or not I'm even remotely close to being right. The tube actually says, Pacific Cigar Company now challenges Cuban cigars in quality and taste. Pacific cigars are made in the old world traditional hand-rolling, long filler tobacco. Pacific Cigar, with its patented processes, now present a smooth, even-burning, mild-flavored cigar that will rival any Cuban cigar. I don't know, it just seems like there's a process in there, and maybe I'm just reading into it way too much. But you know, I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing these new patented processes, and I keep reading old traditional styles, and it just seems conflicting. So I don't know if the new technological breakthroughs are in this tube and the way it's vacuum sealed, or there's just something going on in the fermentation process and whatnot. But I don't know, I think I just definitely need to stop looking into it and just smoke the cigar as is. Now I keep looking at the ash, and I'm seeing it pull away. It's flaking quite a bit, and I'm seeing these brown streaks that run through the cigar every once in a while, and that seems a bit odd. You know, I don't remember seeing anything that pronounced or that brown in an ash before, but it doesn't seem to be hindering the smoke at all. The sweetness that I was getting more on my lips and the tip of my tongue are kind of gravitating back towards the throat. So it seems that the sweetness is coming more from the burning smoke than, you know, the what I thought initially may have been just the pectin on the cap. The primary flavor is more of a traditional Dominican tobacco flavor. There's some saltiness in there. There's that traditionally dry sort of mouthfeel. I'm getting woody flavors, and the secondary flavors still are this nutty component. And you know, the nutty component sort of adds some complexity to the cigar and makes it enjoyable. Now, I really am enjoying the flavor of the cigar, but it's tough to get past the harshness of it. I mean, the harshness has come down a considerable amount from the beginning, but it's still there, and it's still an annoyance. Now, I don't know whether it's just a particular blend or what. I think maybe if this cigar wasn't in this sealed tube and it was able to breathe a little bit, I think that harshness would go away. But you know, then again, I'm not a cigar blender, and I'm just a consumer, and that's just my little thought there, or my input. But you know, the flavor of the cigar is not bad. It's just that bit of harshness. The ash makes a bit of a mess. The burn rate, it seems to have slowed down a little bit. It's still a little faster than I would like. The thick, heavy burn line, which was blistering before, seems to have thinned out considerably. It's still mildly uneven. It's you know, well within reason, and the cigar seems to be burning okay. You know, the resting smoke is light. It's got a mild aroma to it, which is pleasant. And you know, I just think I might be looking into the cigar too much. You know, I just it seems like there's something going on that I'm missing. I'm reading traditional style, and I'm reading, you know, new ways of doing things, and it just kind of doesn't. They don't coincide. I don't think you can have old world tradition with a splash of technology, or a splash of this new age sort of process. It just seems kind of odd. But at any rate, I can still hear the cigar burning from time to time, and I don't know what that's all about. There's still spots in the ash where I can see the wrapper is pulled away from the binder, so I don't know if what I'm hearing is actually air rushing past the wrapper and the wrapper leaf combusting away from the binder. It may be making a little bit of noise, and that may be the issue. But again, I'm not sure. From a standpoint as a whole cigar, and not looking at the company, it's not bad. It's a bit harsh, but it's not bad. And I'll get into that more with the final third. But you know, stepping away from the cigar just for a second, I'm really trying to keep this video fairly short. I just keep running into things I want to talk about. The coffee that I'm drinking, the Stumptown Sumatra stuff, is fantastic. I really like it. It's and the card that came with the coffee that you know, gave you some cupping information was very helpful as well. And I noticed in there that it has you know, raw tobacco flavor and stuff like that. It was just kind of interesting, which I don't know. I like that kind of stuff, and I'm really getting into the coffee. I'm drinking a lot of the Black Dog stuff, and now the Stumptown stuff. It's going very well with the coffee, or it's going very well with the cigar. It's an interesting combination, and the coffee is very oily and rich, and it really seems to help the cigar along. You know, there's a bit that harshness that comes from the cigar. It sort of gets washed away with the coffee, which is nice. So I try to follow up the puffs with a sip of coffee. But at any rate, I'm gonna take another quick break. Again, I apologize for the length of the video. I had no intentions of making it this long, so I'm gonna try to breeze right through the final third and do it in a matter of like 2-3 minutes maybe. But at any rate, hang tight. I'll be right back, and we'll wrap up the cigar.
a sweet, sweet thing to lay. Got a hold of me. I open doors for little old ladies. I help the blind to see. I got no friends.
Well, welcome back. It's been about 90 minutes and I'm into the final third of my Pacific Cigar Company Robusto. And as far as the body, finish, flavor, it's all pretty much the same as it was in the second third, so I'm not going to touch on that all over again. There was very minimal change. The only notable one being that the harshness has picked up a little bit again. Aside from that, let's just skip right over to my final thoughts because I don't want to drag this video on too long. All in all, I don't think it was a bad cigar as far as the flavor goes. The Dominican tobacco flavor was a nice change when it finally came about. And of course that was a change over the natural sweet tobacco flavor. And you know, that was nice and enjoyable, but you know, it's really overshadowed by this harshness. It's difficult to get past. I mean, if I were drinking it, or if I was smoking a cigar without drinking anything, I mean, it would be very difficult to smoke start to finish. Now, I never thought that I would sit down and smoke a cigar that was geared towards a country club market or this consignment market, where the cigars are packaged in vacuum sealed, you know, more or less recycled Coke bottle plastic containers. But it wasn't bad. I think the cigar definitely would be better if it was taken out of this tube and allowed to breathe a little bit. I really think that would reduce some of the harshness. The company information, there's just a lot of strange information out there which makes it difficult to really focus on the cigar without really pondering what's going on with the company and how everything works and why the cigars are blended differently in different regions but yet carry the same name and whatnot. But all in all, it wasn't a terrible cigar. I mean, again, I did enjoy the flavor, just not the harshness. The burn rate was about average. I mean, it slowed down a little bit as I got further along. The kind of brown streaks in the filler were kind of strange. I don't recall having that happen very often in previous cigars. But the construction wasn't bad. Once I got past the halfway point, the blistered burn straightened out for the most part. It got much thinner, and you know, again, you know, it wasn't a bad cigar. Now, as far as the price goes, I mean, $7.75, as far as I'm concerned, is out of line for this cigar. It's I think if this were a few dollars less, I could definitely see myself maybe you know, wading into the pool a little bit more and giving them another try. But for this kind of price, I mean, it's definitely out of my price range for the level of cigar that I'm getting. I think I can get much more for much less elsewhere. But again, you know, I think part of that price comes in the fact that they're packaged in these tubes, and you know, and that's a cost that the company has to factor in, and the fact that these are placed on consignment in golf clubs and country clubs and whatnot. It's I don't know. You're going to expect to pay more than that, or you're going to expect to pay that kind of price. Now, for me, the only time I've ever been at a country club was at my wedding reception, and I don't recall seeing cigars or anything like that around. Now, I wasn't back in like the members area where the bar and stuff is. We were in the reception hall, so I don't know if this is commonplace in cigar or in golf clubs and country clubs or whatnot. You know, I don't know that you're going to see this kind of stuff all the time, but it seems that way. So if you're looking for this cigar and you are a country club guy, look around at your local country club and you may be able to find them. If not, you can order them right online from the way it looks, and you're able to select what you want, the blend, the band, you know, size, whatnot. It seems pretty easy to get a hold of them. Or if you're a business and you want to do these on consignment, it looks like that's easy enough to do also. You just call them up and they'll ship you the stuff and stick it on your counter and off you go. But again, I think the price point is high. I don't know that I'll be getting into these much at all due to that price point, but if you can afford them, they're, I don't know. If you can afford them, I think you'll be alright. Now, as far as a golf cigar goes, now, this is fairly small from what I understand of a traditional golf cigar. Now, I know a couple of guys that go golfing on a regular basis, and they always tell me, oh, you know, I go out and I buy the Gisberts in the biggest size I can get, because, you know, when I'm playing golf, the cigar is secondary. You know, it hits the grass a few times, and, you know, I'm putting it down, you know, hitting the ball, picking the cigar back up, moving around and whatnot, and the cigar definitely becomes secondary. So a lot of these guys smoke the inexpensive cigars because sometimes they get trashed, sometimes they don't, and I certainly wouldn't want to be out there dropping my cigar in the grass if it would cost, you know, $8. So I don't know. At any rate, that's the review, and I'm not going to let the video go on that much longer. So at any rate, next week's cigar will be the All Titan de Bronze from I think it's Miami Cigar Company down in Miami. Obviously, they're made in Miami. I'm not quite sure the makeup on them yet. I'll figure all that stuff out for the time, or, you know, when the video comes along. So well, at any rate, until next week, happy smoking.